Hi, and welcome to CryptoBiography. I'm your host, Brandon Starr. This is episode 292 of CryptoBiography, and it's called 6 Crazy Scenes. So what happened this week was I started a story, and I realized the story wasn't going to work. It happens sometimes. And then I started another story, and I realized that story wasn't going to work. And then it was like, oh, crap, because, days had gone by. This is also, we had Utina guest this week, so, Tuesday was already busy and blah, blah, blah. So it was already midweek, and it's like, oh my god, what am I going to do for the episode for, CryptoBiography this Sunday? So, sort of out of desperation, I decided to do, what you might call automatic writing, where you just kind of write and you just sort of see what happens. And that sort of kind of worked, and it sort of became the first scene to a degree. I have edited. I'm not reading out what I automatic wrote. But it kind of gave me the idea that, oh, okay, what we can do then is write a very short scene. And in my head, I had a few I sort of came up with a few rules. Like, yes, it had to be short, although the length gets longer as we go on. So there's 6 crazy scenes, and the first 2 are the shortest, and then they get a little longer after that. But not much. Like, they're still quite short. And the idea is that it doesn't try to tell the entirety of the story, but it tries to tell the part of the story that it's telling while sort of maybe hinting as to what else might be going on or what else might have happened either before or what is going to happen after, that sort of thing. So, and another possibility is, or it could be like an interesting character sketch, something like that. So it has to do one thing well, it has to be short, it has to sort of indicate something outside of itself, and that's it. Like that was the only rules. I guess the only other final rule is sort of like where to stop, which is like don't tell the entire story. Like don't set everything up, or in other words, if I'm telling the beginning of a story, don't indicate what the entire ending is. If I'm telling the end of a story, don't write everything that leads up to it. Just sort of like maybe hint at it, but not actually say it. That sort of thing. So, excuse me. Sorry. I'm gonna have to edit this out, I think. Okay. That was fun. Sorry about that. All right. But anyway, 6 crazy scenes, I'm calling it. They're all a little on the outre side, too. I think because... Oh, there was another sort of rule, as I couldn't world build, so I couldn't set it in like a fantasy setting where you'd have to, you'd have to know like what sort of magic or sci-fi you're dealing with and blah, 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 because that automatically just makes the story expand too much. So they pretty much had to be kind of grounded in reality and sort of based on something that people would recognize right away. So that was kind of another rule that I ended up making for myself, I guess. Anyway. All right, I think my voice is ready now, finally, and we'll get going. And I did not title any of these. These are just Scene 1, Scene 2, Scene 3. So here we go. Scene 1. Open the garage, you fell disease. What's keeping you? It's taking so goddamn long, my arms are aching. What is taking you? If you're not hurt or dead, I'm gonna thrash you when you finally get this goddamn door open, you piece of shit. For fuck's sake, people will be watching eventually. We can't assume this won't go unnoticed much longer. I could have kept this shit in the car, not held in my arms like a goddamn Klieg light focused on me. For fuck's sake, where's the door? I got the death penalty cradled in my arms and you're lollygagging your way to the garage door button. Scene 2. They lay down side by side. Each of them had been darkened by the sun over the months, and now they were as dark as chestnuts. It contrasted magnificently with their white hair. Her dyed hair was nearly gone, only a few of her hairs still showing darkness for a few inches at their ends. They were pinched thin by the hunger that had gnawed at them for all those months. Both of them knew they could buy a few days or weeks by consuming the body of their partner if they were the last to live, but neither considered it an option. And if they did, what was the use? To be the last alive, the last human, alone, with a full belly, on a world no longer fit for survival? Scene 3. The door opened. "You found me at last." The man speaking to the man entering was seated at a kitchen table in the only room of the small cabin. "Yeah, and now I'm going to do to you what you did to my wife." He was pointing a gun at the seated man's head. "You simply never believed that I was framed for that." The seated man put his hands up, fists near the sides of his head. "No. And now it's time to pay your debt. Slowly. I'm going to squeeze every last moment of pain out of your body that I can, just like you did to her." "Best get on with it, then." "Oh, I will, because you'll be dead in 3 seconds." "What?" The seated man opened his right fist. There was a metal ring in it. At the same time, something metal and oblong rolled out of the man's lap and to his feet. He looked back at the seated man in surprise, and then knew no more. Scene 4. "Did you spit on me?" "I most certainly did, my good man. I'm going to teach you a lesson." "Then where's your chalkboard?" "There. No, you'll never spit on anyone again." "What was the lesson?" "You spat on me again." "I suppose I did." "I'm going to punch your teeth down your throat." "What will that teach?" "Never to spit on me." "How will it do that?" "Well, it will force you to make a connection between spitting on people and getting hurt." "How?" Proximity?" "Proximity doesn't imply causation." "But I'm telling you why I'm hitting you." "What if I don't believe you?" "You spat on me again." "And you hit me again." "Seems to me that I'm the one teaching the lesson. I can make you hit me anytime I like." Scene 5. James was his friend and his cousin. He was also James's best man. As the wedding march blared, the people in the pews stood and looked to the back of the church. But no one appeared. At first, everyone assumed there was a small delay. Then there were some titters as the social bonds were stretched. Then they fell into murmurs, and still no one appeared to march up the aisle. Drake took one look to his right at James. The color was draining from his face. Drake stopped looking at James so as not to add to his embarrassment. Instead, he looked steadily to the doors at the back, as though he still expected her to appear at any moment. But still she did not come, and now most of the people in the pews had turned to look at James, pity in their eyes. He would find out what had happened. He would get answers. The pistol in his tuxedo pocket weighed heavily against his thigh. Scene 6. As he ran around the corner, he saw his quarry affixing something to his ankles in the fluorescent lights. There was a sort of small platform, one of two side by side, and his man was at the end of the left one. Beyond, though invisible in the dark, was the town far below. "Hands up!" he yelled, raising his gun to chest height. The man stiffened, then slowly stood up straight. He raised his hands. He turned. The man with the gun smiled. "You think you're so clever, but now you've cornered yourself with nowhere to go." "Going to shoot me?" "Thought I would." But as he brought it up properly to re-aim it, his target was changing. He was tipping over backwards. He fired, but it went high as his target disappeared over the edge. He ran up and looked down, but the gloom made it difficult to see exactly where his enemy was. However, there was a thick cord running down from the platform to the swinging figure below. "A bungee jump? That's your big escape?" Wouldn't he have to climb back up the rope straight back to him? But no, the man was swinging, and it was clear that he was going for some sort of open area, something built into the side of the wall below, and he would simply take the bungee cord off once he had gotten to safety. He aimed briefly at the thick cord, thinking of shooting it. But no, the man would likely be detached from it before he could sever it that way. Could he run around and down to catch up to him? Unlikely. He didn't know how one could get down there from where they were. The other platform. He hustled over and grabbed the thick ankle cuffs. Strong and simple. If that bastard could do it, so could he. He closed his feet in the cuffs. Then he put his gun back in its holster and snapped it closed. Once he jumped, he didn't want his gun flying out of his grasp. "I'm coming, asshole," he said, and allowed himself to fall over the edge. The targeted man was on a small platform, part of a series of them on the cliff, with steep staircases going both up and down from where he was. But he wasn't going anywhere. He had removed his bungee cord and was looking up at the other platform, knowing what would happen next. His enemy had tipped into view, then fell downwards in his general direction. He could see the man looking and locking eyes with him even as he fell. He couldn't wait for his bungee jump to steady. He wondered if his enemy would even try to draw his gun and shoot him upside down. But as the man sped past him, he did not start to slow. Instead, the cord slipped out into the night, and he free fell to the rocks below. He watched his enemy fall all the way until he dashed himself screaming on the rocks below. "You always did underestimate me," he said, and started a long but casual climb up the stairs. And those are the scenes. So I hope you enjoyed it. Obviously, the very unusual episode. If you wanted to see more of this sort of thing, please let me know. If you thought it wasn't working for you, I'd appreciate knowing that as well. If you thought that one of these stories should be fleshed out into a full story, I'd be interested in hearing that as well. So if you have any feedback or comments about this episode or previous episodes, cryptobiography@gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter, and now also Mastodon. And thanks for listening. Words of music copyright 2023, CryptoBiography LLC, all rights reserved. Characters and events are fictional, fictionalized, or satirical.